Hello and welcome. Chris Usher is a freelance photographer in Washington, D.C., and his work appears in monthly and weekly news magazines. Chris visited Kodak recently to talk about his latest personal project, One of Us, which documents the aftermath of Hurricane Katrina. Since 2005, Chris has periodically photographed and interviewed Gulf Coast residents and traveled across the United States to capture portraits and interviews of first responders, volunteers, and evacuees who never returned to the Gulf Coast. We'll let Chris tell you when and why he shoots, and when he prefers to use film or digital photography. Here now, a few words and pictures with Chris Usher.
I took an assignment for Time magazine and went down for the first few days of the storm, thinking it would be a few days and I'd be back home. And it turned in, 3 to 4 days assignment turned into 3 to 4 weeks. I was down there for a little over 3 weeks and sent back again to do a cover story 3 months later on the improvement that was happening since the storm. And I ended up doing a story on that, lack thereof, actually. That pretty much sealed my fate as far as my personal commitment to this whole debacle, because that was just the beginning. The storm is just the beginning. It's an ongoing problem now, because they still don't have homes, they still don't have electricity, they certainly don't have money. Their jobs aren't back. Their credit and savings are in shambles at this point, and they're not getting enough assistance from all the usual channels in government. And so I have a series of digital images that I shot in the first 3 weeks for the news aspect of it. When I went back and started to work on this material for myself, whenever I do anything that's important, I use film. I still think that film is tantamount to quality, and it's less dubious in its archivalness, in its archival nature. I think it's a little more safe to keep as opposed to digital files yet. I wanted to put a face on this, and so I became fixated on getting these people and their stories, and because they could be any one of us, and that's where the title of this project comes from. It's like it's one of us. It could be your brother, your sister, your uncle, your cousin, and not just some poor people somewhere else. Every state in the Union has a minimum of 41. As of December, I can't remember when the last figures came out. I think they were December 18th or something. The least amount which are in Vermont at 41. So there are people in Alaska, there are people in Nome, Alaska, they're in Hawaii, there are some people, and like you're saying, this guy, wherever I go, I ask, if I'm at the gas station, if I'm getting a cup of coffee, when I'm at a campground, I've found people all those places just saying, hey, do you know anyone that's affected by Katrina around here? I was in Albuquerque, and there's this guy from Starbucks, it's like that would be me. And it turned out that he had worked at the Starbucks in New Orleans. A couple of weeks later, Starbucks called him and said, we're not planning on opening that shop anytime soon. Is there some place that you would rather go, and we'll set you up with a job there? So he picked Albuquerque, and he was very happy. So there's actually a happy note to some of this. He decided that he and his wife both liked it there better. But for most people, I think they just want to go home. And it's not happening fast enough or soon enough. It's so funny because people want to be so partisan. It's either it's digital or it's film, but it's to me it's both. It's another paint in your paint chest, and the same way as I use different films for different reasons, I use digital for that same purpose. And for me, digital it's quick and now. You get that instant satisfaction. No one can deny the joy of that. The files now are big enough that they're professional enough, they're publishable, and they're certainly great for prints, smaller prints, and all of that. But when I want something that has more lasting value, in my opinion, when I want something that has a greater tonal range, when I want something that just has that je ne sais quoi. And also, when I shoot with large format, we're still not to that era yet of 4x5 back that I would agree with for digital capture. So for all those different things. And one other thing I don't care for about digital is post-production. It seems that I spend more time behind the computer than I do behind the lens. Kodak has helped me with a number of projects over the years, and I can't. There's so many things, and I think that certainly Kodak, in the same way that grants are awarded and things for things. There are a number of people here at Kodak that I'm not the only one. There are many, many, many projects that I know that they help, and when they see that this is something that needs help, and it's something that certainly I can't do in my own accord, they help wherever they can. And so, film processing, scans, printing, and some posters even for this project. And there's more to come, actually. We're looking into a book and an exhibit, a traveling exhibit for this particular thing. The two main things that I always say, when I was coming up, and photographers that were down along in their careers would come and show their work, and what I always want students to think is, always shoot your pictures. There is no right way or wrong way to shoot a picture, but pictures are a communication. So if you shoot pictures and nobody's getting it, then you need to adjust. If you shoot pictures and people are getting it, then you're going to get that feedback. So shoot your pictures and then justify them. And if you don't get it, then whatever. But there is no right way. Don't try to shoot pictures like I shoot them or like so-and-so else shoots them. Shoot your pictures. So that's my first thing. Feel confident in shooting your pictures, not like somebody else. Just shoot your pictures. Number 2, learn to shoot film and process it in a can and go in a dark room and all of that, because that is how you learn how photography works. Because now you have to go and screw up. You kind of have to see what you get and why f-stops and shutter speeds and all these different things, what you get from that, and if you underexpose and overexpose, and the fundamentals of photography from which you actually can be creative, where all the roots of creativity actually come from, and understanding how that works in a physical sense, I think is really important. I'm pretty sure that I will be working on this project for another 10 years at least, off and on, in the same way that Michael Apted's 7-Up series, if you're familiar with that. And I think that once I finish getting at least one person from each state, and this doesn't, and also I'm not limiting it to just people that were from New Orleans. This is also people that were profoundly affected. I would qualify because I spent so much time at it. I'm not doing myself, but I mean, first responders, there are all kinds of law enforcement people that came down there and spent many, many months, helping out and looking for, doing rescue and recovery work and things like that. So those people as well, and helping animals, and animal rescue. And this project, I'm going to pick a handful of people out of this whole thing and continue to follow up on them each year, maybe every other year. I don't know yet, but until the Gulf Coast is normal, which I don't think that any of us will be able to really say that, and I think the only people to be able to say that would be those that live there, and they'll probably won't say that probably for at least 10 years, I would think.